So with the Mitsushi capacitor, I just want to show failure mode of a capacitor. If you look edgewise, the top of the capacitor is bumpy. It has a bump, and that means that the electrolyte was too hot, and it created gas inside. So a capacitor, when they go bad, this begins to go out to rise. So that's why there's a plus sign or X that allows expansion to occur. So if you have motherboard and you see expansion like this on the capacitors, the motherboard will begin to be will exhibit problems. So if you want to set the motherboard, just change the capacitor. Also, when I took this apart, there were liquid at the bottom, and so the liquid then leached out from the edge, again exhibiting that this capacitor is really bad. And when I shook it or shake it, there's also a rattle, something is loose inside. So those are the symptoms of a bad capacitor. Here I disassembled the capacitor. So just cut away at the housing. I also noticed I turned on the light to have a much better view. I also noticed these two capacitors already. I can see liquid on the surface of the rubber plate. So these are actually going bad also. That's why typically, if you have capacitors on a Mitsushi, for example, if one is damaged, replace all three. There's no point in saying to yourself, well, I should save money by not replacing the two. Actually, you should replace all three, for example. So the symptoms of this failure mode, the electrolyte actually dried out. That's why this thing is loose. It's actually shaking against the inner wall of the housing. So the short occurred here. As you can see, the high voltage potential acted like a lightning, and it is just spark gap across the insulation. So here you can see the damage. That's where this is where the problem occurred, right there. So with this mostly unrolled, this is where the leads connected to. So actually it failed at the leads. And it fails because the solution inside the housing just dried out or leached out due to heat. So it's thermal expansion. The electrolyte become gas and it just leached out. So that's the failure mode. Yeah, well, this thing is disassembled, and because these are also leaking, most likely they're beginning to fail. So the more you use the Mitsushi welder, there is a risk that these will occur also. So yeah, it's best to rate the fuse, so that if it's more than 16, there's a risk that the circuit board will burn. So one shouldn't rate the fuse to like 20 amps or more. Set it to 16. Let the fuse do its job. I've also taken one of the capacitor that wasn't a problem. However, it will become a problem because the the plate, the electrolyte carrier is dry. So with the high inrush current and the heat, it's actually overheating the electrolyte and drying it out, and eventually this thing will fail also. So it's really dry. That's the reason why you need to replace all three, not just one. So knowing this now, the Mitsushi portable welder, once I replace these, most likely, and I use it a lot, this will go bad also. So keep that in mind. It also tells me that having larger capacitance really is a challenge. It would have been better if they have smaller capacitance, like for example maybe 330 microfarads, and have 6 of them in parallel, as opposed to 3 680 microfarad in parallel. The high inrush current really is a problem with these. The other problem might be also is the shelf life of the capacitors. In theory, they don't have shelf life, but the newer the better.